How's it going, Mr. Dan?
Hey, making it happen, man. Making it happen. How you been?
Good. Just trying to stay at it, man. Just trying to keep the grind going.
That's good. That's good. So right now we're gonna take a minute or two for you to introduce yourself. Tell us your name, where you're from, and what you do. Let's go with that.
Lester Gomez from Houston, Texas. My love for art started, regular as anybody else, turned into trying to become a tattooer, hurting my back, and then having to switch up, what to do with the knowledge that I ended up gaining. Now I've gotten more into graphic design and custom printing T-shirts,
Mm-hmm.
and really a lot of it falls on like how would I go about pricing my art when people just want, say, a logo or just design work so that they could sell themselves.
Okay, so you're doing t-shirt printing, and before we jump into that question, because I think I need to hear more information on it before I can answer it.
Right.
We met a couple years ago when I stopped by Houston, and you gave me a painting, right? I still have it.
Yes, sir.
It's at the studio right now. But yeah, man, I'm glad to see that you are still working and doing your thing when it comes to art. I checked out your page. I see a lot of postings about the printing that you do. And
Yeah.
so it's awesome that, and I think your sister's in the business too with you.
It's my wife.
Your wife. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, same last name. I kind of assumed. Cool.
Right. No, it's easy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So let's jump right to it. Right. So we want to talk about, some of the questions that come up. And the question is, either you're designing something and they want to use it or you want to license it. So tell me the one
Right.
example of what somebody has said to you, what the approach was, and what they want you to do.
I was trying to sell my a setup that I had for screen printing because I'm trying to downsize.
Okay.
Really, just jump into sublimation a little more. Somebody, contacted me looking for it. Saw some of my design work, and
Mm-hmm.
the initial question was, how much would I sell that design with, all rights included to them, and it'd be theirs that they profit off of, they print with, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I couldn't at first give them my answer. It was my first time ever, aside from actually doing logo work for somebody,
Uh-huh.
it'd been my first time to just make or really sell what's, mine per se to
Mm-hmm.
somebody else, and then let them do whatever they want with it.
So the first part was that they was gonna buy equipment from you. So you already know your price and you know what to do with that. They buy the equipment, use it, they do their business, and that's their problem and their success. But the second part is what they wanted some of your artwork and they wanted to be able to use it and printing it also, and then selling it and whatever, marketing, whatever, earning from that, right? From your artwork. And so then the question is, how do you price that kind of work, and and I think and that's one question out of that situation. The other is, what is it that you want in out of a relationship like that? Is that something that you're interested in? And I think the second part of your question was, and that I saw on posting, is the digital something about the digital stuff. And so we'll get into that too.
Right.
But what happens when somebody wants to use your artwork, right? So there's a couple of processes that I use for myself. And my process is either, and I prefer really with one way. And so one way is, one of the two ways, one way I have a big preference for, the second one not so much. But I'll start with the second one that's not so much. Licensing, right? So then you sell the rights to license the artwork for a particular period of time. And depending on who they are, the rates will vary. So if Disney came along, right, and they said, Dan, we love your skulls. We need 5 of your skulls, and we want to license them for the year. Well, that's awesome, because Disney is multinational, trillion-dollar company. So I'll be like, sure, it'll be $500,000 for 18 months, right? But they're Disney, right? So they can afford that. If it was a friend or somebody who's also starting out on their path as printing or making merchandise, then the pricing would be a lot different, because they couldn't afford $500,000, right? If they could, that's great. But if they can't, then we have to find a happy medium so that the business gets done and you earn from it. So what I have done in the past is that they license it for a certain period of time. So you have to write a contract. You need to have a contract. A contract has 3 major things, 4, I guess, something like that. It has a set number. Number 1 is who they are, who you are, what you're providing, what they're providing, what's the rate. And so when you take those 4 things and put them in a piece of paper and sign off on it, it becomes a contract. The other things that you want to put into the contract is what happens if somebody fails to do their part. So then we go into either you give back your deposit or they owe you extra if they take longer to make a payment, etc. Right? So that's a contract. So when you're thinking about a licensing deal, you need to put into a contract how long, what artwork you're licensing, and for what rate, and for how long. And that pricing will depend on who you're talking to and what you want to get out of it. A lot of times, if they're a well-known company, let's say, I don't know, can't think of anyway because I don't like doing those deals. A well-known company wanted to use my work and at a show of some event, and then they was gonna put me front and center in front of all these people, executives, people with big money, a lot of opportunity for me to engage in new business. Then the licensing price may go down just because we're working together and collaborating. So those are a little bit weird situations that depend a lot on what they want to use it for, what's the purpose. If it's just a printing on t-shirts and apparel, great. If they're going to use that artwork to create cartoons and TV shows and comics, well, now we're talking a bigger contract, a bigger piece of what you're going to earn, how you're going to earn this money, who's going to count how this money is earned. Because if you start talking about for every 500 shirts, you get $50 or royalty of some kind. So then that adds a whole lot of elements that are moving parts, right?
Right.
And depending on the kind of person that you are, and I'm the kind of person who just wants to draw, I don't want to deal with that. Like, that's a lot of different things that I have to pay attention to. So my option is option number 2. And I thought of option number 3, and I forgot what that was already. But if I come back to it, there'll be a third version. So option number 2 is when you pay for it straight out. That is it. You have a pay rate. You have a rate in which you sell your artwork. And digital artwork is one of those things that we have to pay attention to how we price and the rights that we give the other person. So when you sell out JPEG or Illustrator file, you know what an Illustrator file is, right? Because of the shirt on, right? So an Illustrator file, then it's scalable. So now you don't just print t-shirts, but you can also print posters, banners, etc. Do car wraps on it with it. And so now that because of the things that kind of file allows you, now that means that you have to charge for those other ideas where the artwork can be used. So here's an example. Somebody comes to me, like the perfect t-shirt company, brand or printer says, hey, I need a design. Can you draw us up this character? I say, yes, I can. And so I have a rate for, let's say, a character. I have a rate for what I charge for a character. Then I also have a rate for how this character is going to be used and who owns it. And so the company, the t-shirt company or a person may say, cool, can I get this character? Can I get this design? And I go through the questions and answers, and I know that they want a character, so I have a price. I know that they're going to use it for marketing a children's book, or they're going to create a property out of it. Well, then that's a separate price that gets added onto it. And I know that they're gonna build a company out of it. Well, then there's a particular price where that we have to meet with that. And what happens is that, imagine that you're back in the however 100 years ago when Disney and Walt Disney was sitting around asking artists to draw Mickey Mouse, and you're one of those artists, and he says, I'll give you $20 if you draw Mickey Mouse, and you say, cool, $20 100 years ago was a ton of money, and so you say, yeah, But now that 100 years later, that company is multi-trillion, billion dollars, you know, but you only got 20 bucks. So you have to take into consideration the value that you bring with your talent and how much is that worth. And that's where the next conversation begins. And those are the one deals that I like to make, because now you're paying me to create this character or through this illustration that you're going to create, put into your business and earn money from. And you can make $1 million and I'm not going to care, because you pay me for my work. That's the second option. You pay me for my work. I have a rate for the illustration work or designs, maybe the design you have on your shirt. I have a rate for that. And if you're going to do t-shirts and it's a line of t-shirts and it's some kind of, like I talked to this guy one time and he wanted to do hip hop designs on his t-shirts. And I was like, cool. So he wanted like 20 designs on t-shirts and 20 different designs that he would put on t-shirts. I'm like, cool. You pay me per design. I know that it's for t-shirts. And anytime you use the artwork is really to promote the t-shirts. And there's no characters involved. It was really based on hip hop, right? Okay, fine. So in that case, I charge per design. We have a rate for how much you're going to pay me to do all designs. I take a deposit. There's always a deposit required. You have to pay me a deposit. It's non-refundable, because as soon as you pay me, I'm going to start working. And once I start working, I'm going to put in my creative process into place. I'm going to put my mind into it. I'm going to put my inspiration into it. I'm going to start looking up sketches and ideas and start drawing and everything. And that's my time and that's my work. So I have to get paid for that. So you get your deposit, you start working, and then once the job is ready and I present my proofs, they approve them, I say, cool, now I need my balance. Here's the Illustrator designs, the Illustrator files for these designs. You can do what you want. It's yours. And the contract will say that this person is hiring me to design 20 designs, 1, 5, whatever many, at this rate, and their use for that artwork is such and such. And they're going to pay me a deposit. I'm going to have the work done in a particular amount of time. They're going to pay me my balance. If they don't pay the balance at that particular time when the artwork is ready, then we start adding late fees. If I don't finish my work at a particular time, then they start getting discounts. At a certain period, this contract expires, and whoever did not do their part loses out. So that's a contract. You start putting in all the little things that when you put you in front of Judge Judy, they're like, why didn't you finish your work? And, you know, give this man his money because you did not finish your artwork or whatever, right? You start thinking about all those parts. So that's my way. The second way is my way in which I work. So now when they tell me that they say okay to my price, they give me my deposit, I get to work. And so once the work is done and they pay me what I ask them, they can sell the artwork on t-shirts 100 million times. They could even sell that to Target and Walmart, and then next thing you know, you walk into the store and your t-shirt design is everywhere, on little baby shirts, on grown-up shirts, on girl shirts, whatever kind of shirts. Well, that was the deal you made, right? You set up the pricing for which you was going to get paid. You got paid that money. You release the rights, and then the contract will say, what is this going to be used for how long? And then usually for those contracts, I release all the rights. Like, this is yours to copyright and trademark is yours. And so because you did all that, no matter how much money they made, you don't get any of that. You get what you got paid to do, which was to draw.
Right.
On the opposite, so it sounds a little unfair, right? Like, oh my God, they made $1 billion, and all I did was, I got a couple thousand maybe. Right. And that's not a bad deal, because the majority of the time, you're approached, and it's sad to say, you're approached by people who don't understand the business they get into. They see your artwork like, oh, we can make money with that. This is the artist talk. We're talking now. We're going from the art business professional to the real meat of an artist's life and what they go through all the time. Like, oh, that's awesome, man. We could sell t-shirts. Make me some t-shirts. If you had 100 of them, and we went to the Houston game, we can sell 1 million of them. And you do all this work and you print all these shirts and they don't know how to sell anything. And so then instead of me investing my money into printing t-shirts and investing my time into the designs, I say, no, if you think you can sell 1 million t-shirts, great. Pay me for the design, pay me for the printing, or let's go to my printer. Let's go see Lester. He's going to print them all out for you. You pay him for the printing, though. You have to pay him. And then go sell your 1 million t-shirts. And if you don't sell them and nothing happens out the business, you at least got paid for your time and your work.
Right, right.
So now, what is that worth?
Exactly.
That's a hard question, right? That's
right.
really hard because all of us have different prices. All of us have different lifestyles and different levels of experience.
So the process of how you create your art, you know what I mean? Because digitally, there's a million ways to go about creating art. You know what I mean? You can use and alter, you know, other images and things like that. Should the process dictate, or how much should it affect how you go about pricing things? You know what I mean? Because what that guy wants, it literally took me, between us who's watching, the 8 people, it took me like 30 minutes to make, right? Less than that. Right. But like, to me, I made it quick. I didn't have any success with it. He wants it. It's like, to me, it's no big deal. As soon as I shot it past my wife, that's when, you know, perspectives kind of clash. When, like, nah, you can't just give anybody anything.
Let me hold my cup up. Get your shit. Get shit done. So that's a great question, right? So, but it's in like 4 parts. Number one is several parts. Number one is your time, very important, right? Number 2 is your skill level, right? Because if you never drawn this before, let's pretend you never drawn this design idea before, you might have labored 20 hours thinking, sketching, sitting around and watching TV and say, oh snap, I know what I want to do with this. You know, driving around town, thinking about it. Oh no, what am I going to do about this drawing? Right. All that time counts. All right, all that time counts. But because your level of experience is higher, you hear the idea, and because you're used to cranking out, hearing ideas, cranking them out, and then coming out on paper, you're faster. That doesn't mean you're not talented. That the one who spends 20 hours on it compared to the one who is more talented than compared to the one who spends 30 minutes on it. It's just your experience comes into play. So because you have more experience, you're able to knock out the work faster. So your time will vary, your expertise will vary, and also the kind of lifestyle that you have and the rate that you charge will vary. If we're doing work for minimum wage, I don't know what's the real minimum wage, but I'm going to pretend it's $10. So if you work for minimum wage and it takes you a couple hours to do a design, well then that's $20. But we're not flipping burgers, right? Right. We're not driving a forklift. I've driven a forklift. I've done the cooking. I've been a cook. I've loaded trucks of steel. All night long, you're sitting there loading big old pieces of steel onto trucks so they can go deliver across Georgia. And that's unskilled labor, right? So you manually do something. You would mow lawns. There's nothing wrong with any of those jobs. It's just that there's a pay rate for manual labor. And what you're doing is not manual labor, it's an expertise. You have an expertise. You know how to use the software. You know that all pencils are not the same, but you can draw a masterpiece with a number 2 pencil as you can with a $20 pencil. And the lifestyle that you live is requires that you get paid a certain amount per week, per month to pay your bills and feed your family. So now you take a whole lot of those things together, and then that's how you start determining what's the cost of this artwork. Sure. What am I willing to accept? And at the very lowest level of any of those things, what am I willing to accept in terms of money and financial compensation for this artwork for me to see this person succeed? And I want him to succeed because I want his artwork to be everywhere. I want it to be so successful, they make $1 million, come back and say, Lester, give me 30 more designs at the same price. Or I'll pay you double because I know your work is great. Give me 30 more. Cool. Then so you want them to succeed. So at what price point are you open to accept the money to let them succeed with this piece, and you'll be okay with it? And so let's do the math, right? Let's do the math. It might have taken me 30 minutes to try it out, but it's one of those designs that I come up with all the time. So I'm used to coming out with those kind of designs, right? So there's experience into play. My designs and any work I do is no less than 2 hours on my time, ever. No matter how long it took me, that's how much I charge, 2 hours. I have a goal on the money I want to make every month, every week, every year to pay my bills and live my standard of living. I have responsibilities and objectives. So I have a home, and then I have a studio, and so I have bills to pay over there. I have a crew. So now all those things come into play in how I price stuff. At the very basic of any, and then and I'm having this conversation with somebody now. Can we do a sketch? Can I pay you for just a sketch? Finished work that's an illustrator, ready for print, ready for you to put onto any merchandise and make money right off the bat, or a sketch that you can then need a few extra steps in order to make it presentable to use and whatever, right? So at the very basic, just a sketch, Dan. Can I get a sketch? Yes, you can. My rate changes depending on what I'm doing. So for tattoos, it's $150 an hour. That's what I charge. For drawing and design, it's $75 an hour. So you want a sketch, that's 2 hours. That's $150. But it's gonna take you 10 minutes, Dan. I know, but my rate is 2 hours minimum.
Right.
And it's not because I'm a snob that says I don't get out of bed unless I get paid $150. Is right. That it's taking me time and experience to have computers and devices. And I'm in my home studio right now, so there's some more computer stuff. There's my Cintiq and everything. It's taking me time and experience to get to the point where I have the tools that I need to do the job.
Right.
Yes, you can find somebody to do it cheaper. There's always somebody cheaper. But some of those somebody's cheaper are not professional artists. It could be a friend. It could be family. It's Thanksgiving coming up, so you're going to see a lot of your family, right? Somebody in there can draw. Give them a crayon. They'll draw you something on the wall. And they're 2 years old. Great. The 2-year-old doesn't need nothing but a bottle of milk and some candy, and you have a sketch that you're going to use for your business. Go ahead. Go ahead. Disrespect your business and get something from somebody who don't know what they're doing. This is America. You have rights and freedoms. Go for it. But if you want a professional, you want somebody who knows what they're doing, you want somebody who already has the tools, and I'm not going to do a turnaround here, mess up my camera angle, but I got tons of markers, tons of pencils, tons of devices. I have invested into equipment to then do the work. And there you go. That's right. You have equipment, right? Yeah, and you know, so yes, there's a minimum rate for this. There you go. That's right. I see you. That's right. Yeah, baby. That's right. Yeah, it's a minimum rate for these things, and the level of experience and professionalism that you have. I have a website. I have a contact form. I want serious people who are serious about their business to pay serious money to a serious artist. There's a lot of artists. There's a gazillion artists in this world. I don't know. In my life, I think I know, and all the people who I know, bunch them all together, and you can say 90% of them are artists. I don't know what the real life population is of artists, but there's a lot of artists. And but when you start breaking them down, like in those commercials, when you're searching for a car, you say, I want a blue car, I want a Ford, I want a Ford Explorer, and then it's the list gets smaller and smaller. If I was to do that with the artists that I know, you can say, I want those who know, who do illustrations. I want those who know Illustrator. I want those who can sketch in this style. I want those who have a website, have a portfolio. I want those who have a track record. I want those who have clients who depend on them, so I know that I can depend on them. Right? There you go. So now you start pricing yourself accordingly. And depending on where you are in experience and track record, that would also determine what you charge. A long time ago, I was doing $50 logos. A long time ago was 1995, 1996. 20 years ago. I was doing $50 logos on a piece of paper. Give me a piece of paper. I'll draw your logo here. Here you go. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what a logo meant. I don't know what they were going to do from that paper to get it to whatever they needed to. I was inexperienced. I didn't know, but I know how to draw. You tell me what you want to draw, I can draw it. Nowadays, my logos start at $850 and go up from there. And that's still cheap according to other designers and design houses and so on. And I don't mind sharing my pricing because I have to also explain my process. And I have a website with a page that says process. And it shows you all the steps that it takes. And I can charge more than that if you want me to add extra steps. If you want more revisions. If you want me to start from scratch and say, yeah, I didn't like any of that stuff. I was feeling it, but I don't like it. I charge more if you're going to show this to your mom and see what she thinks. I charge more if you're going to sit around the bar and say, hey, what you guys think about this? And then come back to me and say, you know, I was talking to my buddies. None of them know the business. None of them understand design. None of them know what the hell my business is about. But they looked at this design and they say, nah, they didn't like it. So because they didn't like it, we're going to change it up. Fine. Got a price for that too. The thing is that I have been in the business long enough to know all the things that I need to do to produce proper work that's going to be finished, that you can just walk out. I throw it in a thumb drive. I'll send you a link, a Dropbox link. I'll send you an email with it, whatever. And you can take that design and then walk into any print shop, walk into any service to do merchandise, printing, etc. And they will plug it in and get to work and not ask you any questions because a professional artist has finished this work. And that costs money. So you have to think about what is the worth of this piece that you got. Can you post a link to your logo designs? Those steps I like to use. Yes, Levon. Go to The Creative Genius, and it's not on the it's not on the description, but The Creative Genius. I'll type it out and add it to the description of the video. And so once you start putting all those things together and say, well, and then it depends on the design, right? So I'm looking at your t-shirt design. That's one layer, one color. It's a silhouette, right? Black and white contrast silhouette. I have a rate for those, you know. It's like, cool. It's not a big deal in terms of colors and layers and shadows, and I have to build this big old illustration. Okay, I can work with that. It may not be $850. It ain't gonna be $150. It's gonna be a price point that I feel comfortable saying this is gone. It's sold. It belongs to somebody else. I may leave it in my portfolio. Have it anymore. It doesn't belong to me. And so in that case, my minimum is around the $500 range, depending on who you are. If you bought the equipment from me, you're leaving with equipment, right? This go back to this particular customer. They bought equipment. I don't know what the pricing of your equipment is. But if you spend a few $100, more than $500, I might give you half price on it. $250. Give me $250 as yours because you just bought a bunch of stuff from me. It's worth it. You're my customer. I value you. I care for your success. Here, take one of my pieces. You like that one? I'll give it to you half price. $250 is yours. You own it. Let's do up with this contract. I obviously have a contract for the equipment you sold. You have to, right? A bill of sale of some kind, right? You got paid, they left with the stuff, and it is no longer in your studio. Fine. Draw another contract. So-and-so is buying artwork from so-and-so at this rate. He's paying me the money this date. I release all rights to this, and when he said all rights, he could go into walk into Hollywood somewhere and sign a multi-billion-dollar deal with Fox, and you don't get nothing, right? Depends on the artwork, and go away. If it's a character, it's different. A design is one thing, a character is another, and it doesn't matter how intricate the design of that character is. It could be the Boondocks character. It can be just something that people are used to drawing. Big hair, big head, little body. That's a character. Sure, I'll say you're my character. But that's going to cost you. That's going to cost you a lot more. And I might not even budge on my normal character rate. And that starts over $1,000. Because it came out of my mind. I brought it up. I cultivated this character. I built it up. It came out of my essence. There are many characters like it, but this one is mine. And I built it and I created it, and that's why you fell in love with it, because I put all this much love into it.
Right.
And there's a chance that millions of people will have that much love for it too, to buy all your merchandise that you create with this character. There may be enough love in this character that Fox and Paramount aren't going to trip over each other to give you $1 billion to make this movie. Nah, I need more money than that for this. So you have to take those things into consideration. You have to know who you are. There was a quote I saw that said, before you center yourself, know your limits, know your boundaries, and then you can find your center and who you are. So that means that you have to outline the kind of artist that you are. What is your business like? What is your business about? What do you provide? And what rate do you need to charge? And the rate is based on what kind of life you live. Because if you live in an inexpensive way, you can afford to be a little cheap, right? Because it's inexpensive. But I think you have children. Don't you have children?
I got a lot of dogs.
No?
I got a lot of.
A lot of dogs. They all have to eat.
Yeah.
So it's not cheap, right? So you have to. So you think about the costs of sustaining the business. You know, the equipment, the things that you have to invest on, the creative cloud you have to pay for every month. You know, the phone, the electrical, everything, right? You start thinking about those things and say, well, I have a budget for my life. I have a budget for what I need to earn. I have a wife who's amazing and my business partner and my business manager and my big time supporter. And she tells me we need a certain amount of money for this month. We need a certain amount of money for that month. It changes slightly, and I earn differently every month. But my goal is always the same. What my hourly rate, what my weekly rate. I know that if I can meet those goals, I pay my bills, and I have a little extra left behind. Right? So when you start adding that up and saying, well, cool, I can't work for no less than $30 an hour. I just can't. I won't. It's crazy. I'm giving away. I might as well volunteer. Right? I'm giving away my time for some worthy cause if I'm going to work for almost less than $30, because anything less than $30, I'm giving of myself now. It's like you walk into the art store buying pencils, $10 a pencil, and then as soon as you walk out, you sell them for $5 a pencil. I might as well give you a pencil and hope you become a great artist, because I'm just giving away $5 now. You know, so that's how you have to look at your time and look at your lifestyle and say, well, what is it that I need to earn? How much do I need to make? And then you break that down and say, cool, my time is worth this much because I've taken all these things into consideration. And even though these people bought you the equipment from you, there's a breaking point where you have to be okay with yourself to say no and walk away. That's it. It's just I can't. That's crazy. You might as well come and grab some of this stuff and take it with you. And I can't. My wife's not be okay with people just walking in taking my equipment from me for nothing. But that's at the point where I have to walk away and say, you know what, this transaction is not worth it, and I can't do it for that. And here's the third way. I just remembered my third way. If somebody wants to deal with you, and they love your work, and you want to make it work, and this also applies to this situation with you, I'd work out payments. I say, fine, this is my rate, and you need to say okay to my rate. then you need to say that okay to my deposit. And if you okay those things, let's talk about payments. You're gonna break up the payments into 4 or 5, however. You the client, tell me what's your budget, what's your financial commitment can be. And if you can pay $100 a week, $100 a month, great, fine. I start working on this project or release you this artwork the moment you hit this mark. I start working on a project as soon as we hit 50%, or I release the files to you the moment we hit 100%. As soon as that happens, cool. So now we're working with your budget, all right? But you're paying me what you're supposed to pay me. And we're both happy. You need this immediately, you need to go find some money. You need this right now, go find some money. Because I can't work for free. You can't work for free. You can't invest 100 hours of your time in a project in 1 month and not get paid that month. And not have any time left over to do any other work that's going to pay you some money. You can't. That's when you walk away and say, well, then we can't make it happen. I don't know what to do. You know who you are. You have to know the kind of business that you're in. You have to know what are your boundaries. I'm willing to be flexible, but this is the edge. And you have to stand on who you are. And if you have the talent and you have the skill and you build that business know-how, then you'll be able to make it happen and succeed. And you have to trust that. The last thing I want to tell you, and this for anybody, I don't know if I answered your question because we're going to go back and recap so you can ask me anything else, is negotiation. You have to understand, and all this time we've been really talking about negotiation skills. You have to understand and know your position, their position, and how you can make it work for everybody to win. And that takes a little bit of talent, a little bit of experience. You have to have suffered through all the many times in the past where I did not get paid for my work, where people ran off with the design because I didn't know to ask for a deposit. I didn't know that not to give the files to somebody before they pay me the balance. All those things has happened to me before, and that's experience. And then you learn, and you say, well, before I say yes, I need to explain some things. Before I accept the money, I need to make sure that we're clear. Before things start to go off the rails, I need to make sure that I can maintain this relationship but still stand on my ground. And all of that is negotiation. Do I talk a lot?
Hey, we both do, but you know, I mean, you help fill in a lot of the blanks. You know what I mean? Because, like you said, unless these moments don't arise, a lot of people are just left with the experiences. You know what I mean? And the trial and error that's involved in trying to be entrepreneurial. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, like a lot of what you just spoke of, you know, giving away work for free, having, you know, giving them the files too early and things like that are all things that I'm literally, you know, in the midst of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the more it happens, the better equipped I am with the experience. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I said, the more experienced you are, the better you can handle yourself, and you can go about certain things.
Learn
you know
learn from those experiences. Don't just suffer and wallow and
Right.
be sad and depressed. Learn. That's right. That's what you're doing. Learning. Yeah. Do better next time.
Yeah. So like right now, I really I had to change my perspective before I got into this, Mr. Dan, because in the beginning my perspective was still basic. It was, you know, like everybody else, instant gratification, and you know the lack of it and the disappointment that it comes with. I've really done the most growing in the midst of trying to own my own business that I've ever had, because my patience is going up. You know, my understanding of circumstances and people is only increasing more and more. And really just knowing the circumstances within the scenarios, you know what I mean? Like you said, I'm providing a service, I'm pricing myself, and then, you know, things happen that help, you know, what you need to see clear in regards to like the price. I know how much work I put into it, so it should be easy, you know, to translate that over into like a price that you would give somebody or anything like that.
Yep. And in order to get that message across is the sales. You have to know how to sell. You have to. Luckily, and I mentioned this a lot to the point where my wife makes fun of me because it's funny. Cause how I say it so many times. I come from a family of merchants. I mean, and that's real. My grandparents, my mother, my aunts, my uncles, cousins, they all sell something. They all sell something. And and when I was a kid, I used to when I lived in Mexico for 5 years, and I used to hustle vegetables. And believe it or not, I used to hustle vegetables. And my mother, I grew up watching my mother sell Tupperware and Avon. And I heard her do the sales pitch all the time. And then as I got an adult and I realized what a pitch is, I said, oh, I already know that stuff. And I just need to know exactly what to say. So there's a practice of how to explain what you do and how to make it compelling enough to see the worth in you. But you're not hustling anybody. It's a hustle in terms of you have to grind it out. But you're not hustling anybody. You're telling the truth. And you know the work in the backside, what needs to happen for you to have something for people to walk away with the finished product. And you understanding and knowing that value will help you sell it better and easier. And it needs to be in a way, you need to frame words in a way that show the customer that you have value and the work that goes into it is worth it. And then there comes a point where you can't explain anymore. Like you've done all you can, and the person still don't want to pay. Well, then that's when you say, "Well, then I wish you well in your relationship and in your business." You know, yeah, that's it. Because I can't do it. But yeah, you got to be able to sell. Think about that. What's it gonna take for me to say what I need? What I do without explaining everything, but showing that I have value. And you have value because somebody does not need to stand there and watch you draw to make sure you do the work. You have value because you already can do the work without supervision. You have value because you're a professional about this business. You have a whole lot of different things that bring you value that another person should be able to see clearly and understand and say, you're worth it. I'll give you the money. Fine. So yeah, that's good, man. That's good. Do you have any other last minute questions or any last questions for today?
When it comes down to social media, because with the times of changing, social media is if you're doing it, I mean you're completely in. If you're not doing it, you're kind of behind the times, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is like should we try to like measure the reliance that we put on social media? You know what I mean? Or try to control our reliance and not try to be over reliant. You know what I mean? And still try to go do some of that old school footwork that old school face to face.
So there should be a balance. Right? So there should be always a balance about it. Number one, there has to be a balance between your life and your business. Number two, there has to be a balance between the time you spend creating work and running your business. And then there should be a balance in between how you promote your business. The promotion online and the promotion in real life. All right, so let's take those. So now I think I understand your question, right? How much should we rely on social media? Do we really need to rely on social media? And then how do we make that work for us as opposed to real life, everyday stuff, right? And so the everyday. Let's start with the everyday. Your printer. We're gonna stay on your printing part of your art and business. So I know that there are conventions that here in Atlanta for printers, and I've been to a couple where there are like all these vendors who sell big old print machines and equipment and inks and so on, right? And all these local printers go, and they're all everybody's trying to sell to these printers and so on. What a printer goes there, it goes to see the industry and the business. What the printer does not go do there is to try to sell their printing services to somebody else, because everybody there is a printer. When I go to art shows and art events, I don't try to sell to the other artists because they're artists. They're not my customer. So understanding who's your customer is number one. You already understand your value. You understand the business that you're in and what you have to provide. Now we need to understand who is our customer and not other printers. So what you do is to promote your business, and it's apparel and t-shirts, right? So you need to go where where there are people who need t-shirt printing done. So you need to go to a baker's convention. They all need aprons, right? They need printing on their aprons. They need t-shirts for their business. You need to go to sports conventions, because I saw you selling some Houston apparel. You need to go to Little League conventions. You need to go wherever you're going to find the people who are your customer. And that's who you go out to give out stickers to and business cards. You may have samples. You may need to find some cheap old baby t-shirts that you can buy real cheap and print your logo and design a clean design on it and give them away wherever you go. And what happens with that is that now you're connecting with your customer. I have to think of about a ton of other places where you can go and find customers. Restaurant conventions or meetings or places, wherever they are, they exist. There's magazines dedicated to all these different industries. They all use t-shirts. If I was a t-shirt printer, I'm looking for chain restaurants that are local. I'm looking for the zoo. I'm looking for and that's because I know a t-shirt printer who I've been friends with for 20 years, and he does all my shirts. And he does all the festivals, the local festivals in Atlanta, like because they order 10,000 shirts at a time. Don't waste your time trying to sell a 5-shirt order when your profit margin increases as soon as you hit that 24 t-shirt order. Like that's your goal now, right? That's it. I need to sell 24 shirts and up. You can handle 24 shirts on your own. I'm supposing that you can in 24 hours, right? So whatever your limits are, wherever your profit margins are, that's where you start to find your customers. Social media is the same game, except that in social media, your friends and family and your fans also become people who share the word about who you are and what you do. So I work with a friend of mine, and I want to say he's my customer, but he's really a great friend. And he does the Black and Brand. That's the name that he's using, Black and Brand, to promote some of the t-shirt ideas that he comes up with. And so I just do all the designs and illustrations. Like that's our rule, that I have to do all the drawings. His ideas, but I do the drawings. And so what he does to promote is not to just sell the shirts, say, hey, we have t-shirts, check them out, buy them. He prints the shirts and wears them and models them, and of course he works out, so the shirt looks well on him. And he posts that on social media, right? Then anytime somebody buys the shirt from him, he asks them to send in a picture or post a picture of them wearing the shirt, wherever they are. And these are people all over the world. And they send him pictures or tag him on those pictures, and then he reposts those pictures. So now his customers, our customers for this brand, are wearing that brand in other places where we don't even have a physical reach, but the internet does. And so we leverage, and I say we because he's the one doing it. I do the work, the artwork. We're leveraging all these posts and social media interactions in a way to show potential people who potential customers who may be interested in that brand and like, oh, that's a cool design, I should get that. Now they're like, oh, we got other people talking about it. We got that becomes a cool thing. Now that's becoming a cool thing. I need to have my shirt too. I need to have I want to rock that. You know, that looks good on that person. I'll represent that. That's talking to me. One of the first images that we used for that brand was because he moved from Atlanta to Dubai, so he's in Dubai right now, and so the brand, so the illustration was Black in Dubai. So of course he's a black man in Dubai, doing the work, living the life, etc., representing for himself, right? Representing for everybody. So that was the first idea. Then as time went on, the word black became the part of the logo, and so I did a drawing of a fist. And so all little by little, it's been building up and building steam, and people have been buying into that idea, buying into that brand, and buying into the self-respect and showing off a professional working person who's responsible. And so that whole brand just building and building and building to the point where other people are helping spread the word. And that's how you use social media. You spread the word to find other customers. Now, because you're the printer, you can sell one shirt at a time, but you'd rather sell 24, 36, however number of shirts at a time. And so now you have to grow that community of people who order from you. So anytime you get an order and a t-shirt order goes out, you need to promote those customers. You can, what is that? Old Navy just stopped by. They grabbed their t-shirts. We're pretending, and just came and got their t-shirts. Their order is out. Go buy their shirts at the 14th Street store starting next week or something like that. Right. And then you start pumping them up. And I just said Old Navy. It could be anybody. And then you start pumping them up little by little, and you start building community. And then you start to promote your own customers. And then other potential customers, like, you know what? If he's working with so-and-so, he's working with so-and-so, they came to come and get shirts from him. I need to get my t-shirts printed by him. And then that's how that social media